Okay, let's talk about watercolor pencils. In your sketchbook, you'll find a worksheet that looks like this. I have extra copies if you need one. Please work on some kind of piece of scrap paper. This is just newsprint, so the watercolor doesn't bleed through. You're going to need a little cup of water, some paper towel, and some watercolor pencils. They're in bins like this. You want to make sure that they say watercolor pencil on the side. Okay, so this worksheet has all the directions. I'm going to show you just how to get started. So for the first space up here, I'm going to create a value scale. So this says lightest to darkest. So inside this space, I'm going to take my watercolor pencil and I'm going to push down really lightly to start. So barely any pressure. So you might notice, and then this next one I'm going to push down a little bit harder. You might notice that this says watercolor pencils. So these are really cool because it's basically watercolor in pencil form. So each one of these boxes I'm pushing down a little bit harder. I'm going to get to the end here. I'm going to go darkest. Okay, and we do this so that you can see the range that you can get from the watercolor pencils. So now I've shaded with my the pencil. I'm going to get my paintbrush wet, and then this is the biggest trick. You're going to take your paper towel and you're going to take off some of that water. You do not want to apply a lot of water. So then I'm going to lightly paint over this, and it's going to activate the paint. I'm going to rinse my brush, do the same thing, take off the water. It's going to activate the paint. I'm trying to stay within the boxes as best I can. Oops. Next one. So the cool thing about watercolor pencils is that you can do a lot of blending and you can mix colors together. So you can get a wide range. You go from really light to really dark. So this graded wash, it would be the same thing as this, where you start really light and you get dark, but instead of having spaces in between, you're gonna try to blend using different pressure on the pencil. So you're gonna go really light with the pressure and then push down harder, 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 hardest, okay? So these colors down here, blending boxes, we're going to work on blending because this is the coolest part to me about watercolor pencils. So I want you to think about applying one color here. You're going to go about halfway. And you're going to overlap slightly. So when you get close to the halfway point, lighten your pressure up a little bit on the pencil. So I'm going to take a different color, come this way. Lighten up my pressure a little bit. I'm going to overlap and I'm going to blend. Now we certainly don't have to only blend in this direction. There's lots of other ways to do it, but this is just a practice sheet. So then I got my paintbrush and I knocked off some of the water on my paper towel. It's not so wet. So see how I blended that in the middle there? So you can go a different direction if you wanted to. You can try the same thing another way. So horizontal. You could feasibly take 3 colors. So maybe I want to incorporate a little blue in here too. I can blend that over the top. Paintbrush, knock off some water, and paint. And it activates the paint. See how they blend together? It's really cool. Okay, so these two here, this is where you're trying 2 different colors. And you'll kind of meet halfway. Keep the pencil lines close together so you have nice value. Get another color, have it meet over here. And this time you can see the difference if you, you know when you paint with watercolors sometimes, if you paint over one color with the next, like the paint kind of mixes a little bit. So this is practiced in soft edge versus hard edge with watercolors. Same thing. Soft edge would be you paint the whole thing with water. Hard edge is where you would let spaces dry. So soft edge, you would paint this red. Rinse my brush. Paint the purple. It's gonna kind of mix a little bit in the middle. Hard edge is where you would paint the purple. I'd get close to the red. I'd stop. I'm gonna let that dry, and then I'm gonna come back and paint the red. okay? I'm not going to do the whole rest of this for you. I think you get the idea to start. This is a finished version, okay? So you're going to try to create a graded wash where you're trying to create form with a sphere. And flat wash is just one color. There's very few places you would just use flat wash. And then wet paper is where you'd get your paper wet first and then go over with watercolor. All right, ask me any questions if you have them.